All right, this is Module 2, Lesson 15. We're going to convert rational numbers to decimals using long division. So we actually get a calculator for this first example. And it says, using the division button on the calculator, explore various quotients of integers 1 through 11. So what that means is we're going to do stuff like 1/2. Now remember, division is the same thing. Fractions are the same thing as division. So 1/2, if I use my division button in the calculator, I would do 1 divided by 2. And if you look at the display, it says 0.5. All right, so let's do another fraction. How about 1/3? So 1 divided by 3 gives you a whole long list of numbers. We write that if it's repeating, if it's a 3 over and over again, we write that using the bar notation, which just tells us that that 3 is repeating. So that would be repeating 3. All right, how about a different one? How about 2/5? So 2 divided by 5 gives us 0.4. How about 7/9? 7 divided by 9 is 0.7 repeating. Now, notice on the calculator there's an 8 here. The reason there's an 8 is because the calculator screen is only so big. So what happens is the calculator will round it. And think about that. If it's a 7, it's 5 or above. Give it a shove so that turns into an 8. All right, how about 1/10? 1 divided by 10 is 0.1. And how about 5/6? 5 divided by 6. Now this time it's 0.83 repeating. The 3 is repeating, the 8 is not. So when you put the bar notation, you're going to put it over just the 3. All right, so what kind of decimals do we see? Well, we see ones that stop and we see ones that repeat. So we call the ones that stop, we call them terminating decimals. Terminate means to stop, and we see repeating decimals. Those are ones that repeat the same number over and over. So let's organize these types of fractions into the chart below. All right, so we're going to put terminating in the first column. We're going to put repeating in the second column. We're going to take these fractions and we're going to put them in the specific column. So if they were a terminating decimal and they stopped, we're going to put it over here. So 1/2 equals 0.5. That was a terminating decimal. It stopped. It did not repeat. 1/3 was a repeating decimal. 2/5 was 0.4. That was terminating. The decimal place stopped. 7/9 was 0.7 repeating. 1/10 was 0.1 or terminating. And 5/6 was a repeating decimal. All right, so yesterday when we were changing from fractions to decimals, we always made the denominator a place value like 10 or 100 or 1,000 to write it as a decimal. Sometimes they specifically ask you to use long division because to change a fraction to a decimal, you can simply divide. So let's practice some where we're taking the fraction and dividing. I like to use this little trick of pushing the fraction over so the 3 falls inside. So if I do that, the 3 is on the inside, the 4 is on the outside. Now, 4 does not go into 3, so we're going to add our decimal and add a 0. 4 goes into 30 8 times. Nope, 7 times. 7 times 4 is 28. Subtract. Bring down a 0. Now, 4 goes into 25 times. 4 times 5 is 20. And you get a remainder of 0. So the answer to this would be negative 0.75. The negative you don't do anything with, you just bring it over into your answer. All right, so I would like you to practice doing long division, changing fractions to decimals. So what I'm going to ask you to do is pause the video, try C and D. And then when you are done, hit play and make sure that you have the correct answers. All right, for this one, we're going to tip the fraction over. So 8 goes into 7. 8 does not go into 7, but 8 goes into 70. That would be 8 times. 8 times 8 is 64. Subtract, you get 6. Bring down the 0. 8 goes into 67 times, so 8 times 7 is 56. When you subtract, you get 4. Bring down a 0. 8 goes into 45 times. 5 times 8 is 40, and you get a remainder of 0. So the answer to this would be negative 0.875. Don't forget the negative sign. All right, next one, we have 3 divided by 16. So when you tip it over, the 3 goes on the inside. 16 goes into 30 once. When we subtract, we get 14. Bring down the 0. 16 goes into 148 times, which is 128. When you subtract, you get 12. Bring down a 0. All right, 16 goes into 127 times, which is 112. When you subtract, you get 8. Bring down a 0. And 16 goes into 85 times. So the answer to this would be 0.1875. All right, example number 4. We're going to use long division to convert 1/3. So tip the fraction over. 1 goes on the inside. So 3 goes into 10 3 times, which is 9. 10 minus 9 is 1. Bring down a 0. 3 goes into 10 3 times, which is 9. Subtract, you get 1. Bring down a 0. And what are you noticing? Notice that every time 3 is going to go into 10. So we call this a repeating decimal. So we say that the answer to this is 0.3 repeating. Now I'm going to have you try the next 2 examples using long division. So go ahead and hit pause. When you're done, go ahead and hit play to make sure you have the right answers. All right, so for the first one, we're going to tip the fraction over. 4 goes on the inside, 9 goes on the outside. So 9 goes into 44 times, which is 36. When you subtract, you get 4. Bring down a 0. 9 goes into 44 times. And right away, you should start noticing that we are going to get a repeating number. Don't forget the negative sign, but your answer is negative 0.4 repeating. All right, next one, we're going to put 11 into 1. Now, 11 doesn't go into 10, but we can add another 0 and make that 100. So 11 goes into 109 times, which is 99. When you subtract, you get 1, bring down a 0. 11 does not go into 10, but we could bring down another 0. 11 goes into 109 times. Bring down a 0. 11 goes into 10 0 times. Bring down another 0. 11 goes into 109 times. Notice that this is starting to repeat, but it's going to repeat 2 digits. So when I write this, don't forget the negative sign. And the 2 digits that are repeating are 0 and 9. So when you use bar notation, you're going to use bar notation over the 0 and the 9. All right, so on the homework tonight, when you try the problem set, you're going to notice the first question is allowing you to use a calculator, but the remainder are actually asking you to show the long division without a calculator. So please try the problem set, and we will go over it in class tomorrow. Good luck.